Okay, today we're looking at lesson 1-7b, multiplication, division of radicals. Today's learning target is I can simplify an expression containing radicals by using multiplication or division. So when we multiply radicals, we simply multiply the coefficients to find the new coefficient, and multiply the radicands to find the new radicand, and then we simplify. So I like to do this thing called OI times OI, where you do your outsides and then your insides. So if I look, I'm going to do 8 radical 18 times 3 radical 8. So I'm going to do 8 times 3, which is 24. Then I'm going to do 8 times 18, or 18 times 8, which is 144. So I have 24 square root 144. Now, I know that the square root of 144 is equal to something. The square root of 144, if I type into my calculator, is a perfect square. It's 12. So I'm really just doing 24 times 12. When I do 24 times 12, I get 288 as my final answer. And that's it. Now, let's do 5 radical 8 times 7 radical 3. So the first thing I do is I do OI times OI. So I do 5 times 7, which is 35. And now I do 8 times 3, which is 24, so I do 35 radical 24. I need to break apart that radical 24 because I know it could be made simpler. So I ask myself, what makes 24? 2 and 12. Can't break apart a 2. What makes 12? 2 and 6. Can't break apart a 2. Just wanted to make sure do not disturb is on. What makes 6? 2 and 3. So I circle those and put all those numbers under a radical. So I have 35 radical. I have 1, 2, 3 2s. 1, 2, 3. And then I have 1, 3. Now I ask myself, double on the inside, single on the outside. I have a double 2. And that 2 becomes a single on the outside. So I'm going to be doing 2 times 35. 2 times 35 is 70. And then I do the inside, so 2 times 3 is 6. So my final answer is 70 radical 6. Now for question number 3, I have 3 times 10 radical 63. So I simply just do 3 times 10, which is 30. So I have 30 radical 63. Now I need to break apart my 63. So I go to the side and write radical 63, and I break it apart. What makes 63? 9 and 7. So I have 7 and 9. Can't break apart a 7, but I can break apart a 9 to be 3 and 3. So this becomes 30 radical 1, 2, 2 3s, and a 7. So 1, 2, 3. Now I have to ask myself, do I have any doubles? Yes, I do. I have a double 3. So I bring that 3 on the outside, and I do 3 times 30. 3 times 30 is 90. And what's left over is my radical 7. So my final answer is 90 radical 7. Okay, let's go on to our next set of examples where we do some division. So when we divide radicals, we simply divide our radicals and divide the coefficients, and then we simplify. So one thing we do not want is we do not want any radicals in our denominator. So if I have a radical in my denominator, that's a no-go. So I look at my first example, I have radical 7 over 2. So what this means is if I look, I can say radical 7 over 2 is the exact same thing as saying radical 7 over radical 2. So I can actually separate my radicals. So I have radical 7 over radical 2. Now, I don't like having a radical in my denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply my numerator and my denominator by this radical in my denominator. So I'm going to do times radical 2 over times radical 2. Radical 7 times radical 2 is going to give me a radical 14. Radical 2 times radical 2 is radical 4, but we know radical 4 is equal to 2. So I just get radical 14 over 2. Now, if you look at your factor pair sheet, if I have radical 14, I can break it apart to be a 2 and a 7. I can't break it apart anymore, and there are no doubles, so I just leave it as radical 14. So my final answer is radical 14 over 2. Let's go on to our next example. Number 2, I have 5 over radical 3. I don't like that radical in my denominator, so I'm going to multiply my numerator and my denominator by radical 3. When I do 5 times radical 3, I get 5 radical 3. When I do radical 3 times radical 3, I get radical 9, but we know the square root of 9 is equal to 3. So I just get 5 radical 3 over 3, and that's my final answer. Number 3, I have radical 96 over 4. So the first thing I have to do is break apart my 96. So I'm going to go to the right and write down radical 96, and I'm going to break it apart. If I look, I can break it apart to be, I'm going to do 2 and 48. So I can't break apart a 2. I can break apart a 48 to be, though, 6 and 8. Break apart a 6 to be 2 and 3. Break apart an 8 to be 2 and 4. And then break apart a 4 to be 2 and 2. So I've got a lot of doubles. So this is equal to, what is it called? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2s, and then 1 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me just double count. 1, 2, 4, 5, and then 1 3. And that's all over 4. So I asked myself if I have any doubles, and I got a few. Double, double becomes a 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, so I have 4 radical. 2 times 3 is 6 over 4. Well, we have to divide. What's 4 times 4? It's 1, so I just get 1 radical 6. Or I can just write radical 6. And that's your final answer. If you have any questions, please email myself or Miss Colorundo.